to the love and the light that is absolutely in you. Namaste, everybody. Today I got a letter from a woman from Brazil. Actually, her name is Bella from Brazil, which is kind of cute. And her email says, Lisa, you talk a lot about holding on to yourself. I currently live with a passive-aggressive man with narcissistic traits. He does not see me, as you say, and only sees himself or his needs. The minute I ask to be seen or listened to, he discards me. I am financially dependent upon him and cannot leave yet. Any tips would be appreciated. How can I hold on to myself until I am able to work up the nerve to leave him? P.S., which is really great. I was considering having an affair, but because of your videos and your teachings, I realized this was only going to be a diversion. I would probably only attract another narc anyway. Love, Bella from Brazil. Namaste, Bella, and I really hope you get a chance to watch this video and anybody out there that is struggling with a similar situation. So the first thing that struck me was that Bella has an understanding of holding on to herself. So oftentimes when we're living with someone who's passive-aggressive or narcissistic, what ends up happening is our mood gets affected by their mood. We have to learn how to prevent that from happening. So that is a symptom of codependency. When my mood is affected by someone else's mood, then I have lost the ability to hold on to myself, right? I remember in my first marriage, it was so obvious to me that the minute he walked in the door, I was different. My children were different. We sensed the energy in the room was different, and we had to perform. And when I was able to observe that, remember, my shtick is milking the observer inside of you. That's the way you're going to be able to heal, because all of your dysfunctional patterns of thinking and relating and your reactivity is in the subconscious mind. And the only way to really heal these patterns is to confront what's in the subconscious mind and learn how to observe what's in the subconscious mind. Now, I can tell you that's not easy. It is so difficult, so difficult. Last week, I had a retreat with 12 members of my April class from the 12-week breakthrough coaching program. And this was what I was trying to teach them. I was teaching them a master class about observing the self and policing the self and becoming self-accountable. So one thing that I would like you to remember, Bella, is that you cannot expect other people to be a certain way just so that you could be okay. We had a right to feel that way when we were children. So it should have been all about you when you were a little baby. Mom and dad should have been doting on you, making sure that you were comfortable. And if you were upset, they were supposed to investigate and be inquisitive and try to figure out why you felt the way you felt, and then try to do what they could to alleviate your anxiety or your fears and get you into a higher state of vibration. But so oftentimes, many of us come from homes where the parents are not attuned to us. So what we do then is we attune ourselves to our parents, and we end up toning ourselves down because we live with anxious parents or passive-aggressive parents. And by the way, sarcasm, in my opinion, is a form of gaslighting. Just wanted to throw that in there. I grew up with sarcasm was all over the place in my house, and everyone thought it was funny to make fun of everyone else. Hence, I believe now that sarcasm and passive-aggressive comments is gaslighting. So it's not cool. Anyway, I digress. So it's really important that we understand why we're so sensitive and why we tend to allow our moods to be affected by other people's moods. It goes back to being children, and it goes back to trying to gain our parents' validation and being uncomfortable with any idea that we were unable to gain their validation, right? And so that's the hook. That's a linchpin. So now is codependence or empaths, and codependence and empathy. Empaths and codependence there's a line, and I'll be doing a video to help everybody understand the difference between a codependent and an empath. But generally speaking, those of us who have attracted people who abuse us, they abuse us because they know we care about, they know that we care about how they see us. And so if they act like they're disgusted with us or disappointed in us, we turn into these little puppies that are begging to be seen and begging to be forgiven for things that we don't need to be forgiven for, because we're seeking their validation. And we're seeking their validation because we haven't received validation in childhood. That is my belief. I believe this all goes back to attachment trauma. If you are the adult child of an alcoholic, you did not feel seen. The alcohol prevented your parents from seeing you. The addiction. If you are the adult child of an addict, the addiction prevented your parents from seeing you. Inside their own head, it was about the addiction, whether it was bulimia, whether it was anorexia, whether it was pain medication, whether it was sex addiction, whether, mom was unhappy with dad. And so, to avoid the unhappy feelings, she had affairs, whatever. Anytime there is a distraction happening inside the parent, then that child does not feel seen. So then we suffer an attachment trauma. And as adults, what we're doing now is we're trying to make up for that lack, that disconnect in our lives. So what do? We attract people who treat us the same way our parents did, and we're trying to get that unmet need met. So dear one, in terms of holding on to yourself, it really will help you to really understand what I just said. Know why you're seeking validation. Know why you're uncomfortable when he doesn't give you validation. Understand the linchpin. Understand how passive-aggressive people use sarcasm as a way to gaslight us into submission, and use sarcasm and passive aggressiveness as a way to make us wonder what they think about us. So when I say hold on to yourself, what I mean is, what I want you to do is, when your husband walks through the door, and obviously, like you said, you're financially dependent on him right now, you can't leave. But when he walks through the door, I want you to imagine that you are in this, if you ever watch Star Trek, you'll see Captain Kirk, beam me up, Scotty. And this force field comes around anybody who's getting beamed up into the spaceship, right? So I want you to imagine that you encapsulate all your quantum energy. So all your quantum energy is now encapsulated. And you are literally pulling all your energy back into your quantum field, and you're taking control over it. And you're paying attention to every electron, proton, neutron, every ounce of energy that it generates from your body. You're taking control over it. And imagine that you are behind a force field, that all your energy is behind a force field, and see him, and imagine this, like I envision a gray cloud. Imagine that there is this, almost like Linus from Peanuts, in Snoopy, how I think it was Linus was the dirty kid, and that ball of fog, or dust, the dust ball would follow him wherever he went. So when you're dealing with your husband, I want you to imagine that his negative energy, or his passive aggressive energy, is that ball of dust, and you can see it all over him. Just imagine seeing it. Practice visualizing seeing him surrounded with this big ball of dust. Now your job will be to imagine also keeping that dust over there wherever he is. I also suggest that you, when he's in his mood, don't stand too close to him, because quantum entanglement is real. So we have to first understand what's happening in our minds, and then understand energy. We have to pull back the energy in our minds through visualization. It's a tremendous tool. So imagine yourself detaching from him. He's over there, he's over here, and you're over here. So now your brain can now objectify the fact that you're two separate human beings. And then what you want to do is, you really want to understand that energy from people gets exchanged. We quantumly entangle with everyone in our experience. We're all quantumly entangled to some degree. So you want to really start distancing yourself from him in the home. When you see that he's in a mood, go to another room. Physically go to another room. Take yourself out of his experience. Then what you want to do is, you want to acknowledge what just happened. Wow, he was in a mood, and I did not tango with him, which is awesome. And then use journaling. Journal about what you're feeling. You have to heal, we have to learn how to deal with the anxiety that comes up when we're around people who make us nervous, when we're around people who remind us of our parents' energy. Because the goal really isn't to distract from the anxiety. The goal is to acknowledge the anxiety, say namaste to the anxiety. And anxiety, what are you trying to teach me? Because anxiety, in my opinion, is the way our souls or our spirits or our inner beings alert us to the idea that something's wrong. We're not in alignment. But, because the soul isn't going to jump out of you, grab a cup of coffee off the stove, and sit at the kitchen table with you and say, now, Lisa, that's a narcissist. And he makes us very uncomfortable. and we're out of alignment with this relationship, so we need to go. Your soul and your inner child isn't going to do that. Your inner child is going to speak to you through the energy of your body. That's what's going to happen. In our society, we've been taught that we have anxiety disorders. I think anxiety is a symptom, or anxiety is a language. We've just got to learn how to understand the language and then learn the tools that we need to get back into alignment with our true destiny or our true authentic self. That's what I do. I take people who are at that juncture and I teach them how to deal with their feelings, and I teach them the skills they need to honor those feelings so that they can begin creating the life that they really, really want. It's not easy. And anybody that tells you that it is, it's not. It is gut-wrenching to face your own anxiety and to face and to take accountability for what you've created in your life. It's really, really tough. Even though what you created unconsciously, it's still your creation. And it's not easy to get beyond that and to see like, okay, I created this and now I have to move forward, right? So I hope those couple of tips help you. I also want to address that this idea that you wrote that he does not see me, he only sees himself. This is what, if so many people write me and say, Lisa, I think maybe I'm a narcissist. And I say to them, the fact that you're even questioning the fact that you might be a narcissist means that you're not. So a narcissist, if you accuse someone of being a narcissist or acting like a narcissist, their first instinct is anger. Their first instinct is rage. Their first instinct is, how effing dare you? You're the narcissist, not me. So someone who's codependent or an empath, and who has been accused of being a narcissist, will actually take a moment and be like, oh, maybe I am. And they'll reflect. You'll reflect on, did I do anything that might have hurt that person's feelings? Was I acting selfishly? You will ask yourself, you will look for evidence that this person might be right. That's what codependents do. Narcissists don't do that. There are plenty of narcissists out there that have been terribly wounded. My dad is a perfect example. My grandmother, Aunt Pauline, I dedicate my last book, Codependent Now What? It's Not You, It's Your Programming, to her, because she was a young woman back in the 40s that was married to a violent alcoholic. My grandfather was a nasty drunk. He was mean and he was domestically violent. And he was abusive to his children and my grandmother. And she committed suicide. Now, there was no Dr. Phil. There was no Oprah. There was no Louise Hay. There was no Hay House Radio. There was no Pia Melody or, Melody Beattie back then. There was no Lisa Romano, the Breakthrough Life Coach. There was nothing. There was just nonsense. This poor woman, my poor grandmother, had nowhere to go. And it's devastating. She migrated, I believe, from Italy and stuck with this crazy alcoholic. She had 4 kids right away. Catholic Church wouldn't let you go on birth control. What the hell is that? Whatever. I digress. But, my dad was the youngest. One moment he had a mom. She sent him outside in the backyard. She locked the door, locked the kids out in the yard, if you can imagine, and stuck her head inside the oven and just inhaled all the gases and committed suicide. So my dad had a mom one minute and he doesn't have a mom the next minute. Then there's chaos. And then she abandoned him. God bless her, but she did. She abandoned her 4 innocent children to this violent alcoholic. That is tragic. And so I understand my dad's narcissism. I understand that, and I don't think my dad is NPD, but he's certainly on the spectrum. He is very narcissistic. And if you were to suggest to my father that, Dad, that's very narcissistic, he would tell you to go scratch your ass. He'd throw you out of the house. He'd say, you're the effing narcissist. Who the hell are you to judge me? He would go off on a tirade. Now, if I were to say to my mom, God bless my mom, she's had a couple of strokes, diagnosed with MS. I mean, her brain is now mashed potatoes, and I don't think being married to my dad has helped. I digress again. Forgive me, dear ones. But if you ask my mom, you're acting like a narcissist, there would be a moment of reflection, like, why did she say that? And I've seen that happen with my mom over the past 20 years. Like, she's had moments of, because she's actually apologized to me. She told me, at least I never thought about your feelings. That's huge for a woman like my mom. Effing huge. My dad, forget it. He's perfect. He's the victim. It's all about my dad. And he only sees what people do to him. He does not know how to say, how did I show up? how might my actions hurt her? How might my, actions hurt my kids or hurt my wife? How did my actions affect other people? Not at all. My father is the perpetual victim, and if you dare suggest that he's a narcissist or he's done anything underhanded, he will chop your effing head off. He will create some smear campaign. He will call this one and call that one and forget it. Forget it. You were just annihilated. And he needs all these people, again, he needs to be a narcissistic supply. He needs his idea about you to be validated. And he will coerce people into agreeing with him. So I understand what you're saying about living with somebody who only sees his needs. Now, once you identify that as an issue, then you know that you cannot go to him with your needs, because it's very, very common that when you're dealing with someone who's so below the veil and who is so possibly wounded, like in the case of my dad, that they are unaware that they're not showing up for you. They're literally unaware. And my father is the happiest person as long as you are giving him what he needs, which is a narcissistic supply. You are listening to him, you're validating him, you're telling him how much his life sucks and, oh, that sucks and this sucks. As long as you're doing that, you're good. The minute you say, Dad, I wanted to talk to you about blah, 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 and he senses that you actually need him to show up for you, he's gone. You're called a baby, you're needy, what's wrong with you? You're the one who's codependent, you're the narcissist. It's insane. And he cannot see that he does this. So I know now, I don't go to my father with anything. My father calls me, how's everything going? Great, Dad, everything's awesome. How are the kids? They could be in the hospital. Everything's fine, everything's under control, Dad, everything's good. Because I know that unless I show up happy-go-lucky and just there for my dad, we cannot have a relationship. And I also acknowledge that our relationship is very superficial. It is what it is. It's either I acknowledge that it's a superficial relationship, I accept that I cannot control him, or I cut him out of my life completely for good. So I understand the game that I'm playing. I was suffering when I was in resistance to the game. When I was in resistance to him being a narcissist or passive-aggressive, my mom's more passive-aggressive. He's just aggressive. But when I was resistant to who my parents were, that's when I suffered. When I was non-resistant and I understood the game, that's when I was able to flow. Now that's why I'm able to have a relationship with them today. I accept them for who they are, which is difficult. But you know that you can't go to your husband with anything, so don't. You know that you're on the way out, so accept that. I would say that you need to become financially responsible. I don't care what you have to do. When I was single with my 3 kids, I was working 3 jobs, and it was 7 days a week, and I was exhausted. But you know what? I was able to put a roof over their head, and I was cleaning houses. I was cleaning other people's toilet bowls, but it was an honest living, and I'm not ashamed of that. I'm absolutely not ashamed of that. I was working for myself. I was an entrepreneur. I was a personal trainer for years. I got 3 different certifications. And I would train people at home. I would train people in a wellness center. Then I became nutritionally certified, started writing up diet plans. I was selling tents for a while, and I was an entrepreneur, a sole proprietor. I was killing myself, working so hard, but nobody controlled me. So I would definitely say start getting creative and start figuring out, I also became a makeup artist too. And I started doing sweet 16s and weddings on the weekends. It was fabulous, and it was really good money too. So do what you can now to start preparing yourself for that day when you're really going to make that move. Don't wait until you're divorced or you're walking out the door to find a job, or don't wait until your marriage falls apart to get a certification. Start now. Pre-pave that now. Also, I want to say I laughed so hard when I read the part of the email when you said I was considering having an affair, but because of your videos and your teachings, I realized this was only going to be a diversion. I would probably just attract another narc anyway. Absolutely true. If you're not healed, really, really healed, and you're not at a place where you are accepting of yourself, and I caution you, because sometimes I find when I'm coaching people one-to-one is that they find this love for themselves, but then the pendulum, like Melody Beattie, I think she says, the pendulum swings all way to the other side, and we become completely self-absorbed. And to the exclusion of everyone else. And it's hard. Like sometimes people resent their children. They'll resent, taking their kids to school. They'll resent feeding their children, resent taking the dog for a walk. So I do caution those of you on this healing journey. When you start to like become aware and holding on to yourself and loving yourself, you can swing way to the other side and like tell people go F yourself. And that won't last. Usually that doesn't last long, but that is part of, in most cases, a part of the normal process because you're learning to take care of yourself. But when you're at a point where you're able to allow other people to be who they are, even if they are narcissistic and you're not trying to control them anymore, and even if you're annoyed with people, and you're not happy with how they show up in your life, when you get to a point where you can allow it and you're non-resistant to these people who are annoying, that's a sign of true recovery. You have to search your own heart. When you're really recovered, there's really no more anger in your heart. When you're truly recovered, you're like, okay, I see them for who they are. I'm not in alignment with them and I can move around that. Bruce Lee says, be like water. So that's when you're at a point where you can start dating. And that's when you're at a point where you can start, going out with friends and possibly, dating their brothers or their uncles or whoever, vice versa, females. But until you're really at a point where you love yourself and I say it's the flow of harmony or the stream of harmony and the stream of abundance in your heart. When you're still like paranoid that everybody's picking on you and paranoid that everyone's going to try to take advantage of you and paranoid about, who said what and what they really meant. When you're in that vibration, your picker's off, although it's a very normal part of the healing process. But just be aware of when you're still doing this. Like if you're still doing this, you're not ready to move forward and attract a divine mate. You've still got some more healing to do. So that part of the healing journey is very, very difficult because you're finally at a point where you're protecting the divine in a child, as I say, and you are very sensitive and you're aware of how people have abused you. But there's another level. There's another level of healing. And it's a level of light work, the light worker, it's a level of like holiness. When you integrate and you become whole, you become holiness. And you are more able to bestow love and light on anybody, anywhere, no matter how they show up. You just understand that you can turn the cheek and walk away. You don't have to condemn them and write about them on social media and, like say nasty things about them on Facebook, which happens so often, or Twitter in our society today. You don't have to call your friend and say this guy and that girl. You have to do that. When you're in that vibration, that's when you can move forward and think about attracting another person into your life experience that you actually want to share love and light with. So thank you so much, Bella, for your amazing question. I didn't expect the video to go this long, but I hope it inspires some of you. I relaunched my coaching program in January of 2017. We're in probably up to like week 8 right now with my current class from September 2016. Amazing breakthroughs are coming. We're in a tough spot. This is the second module where people are learning to take accountability for what they've created in their life unconsciously. But we're doing very, very well, and we're holding on to ourselves, pretty much like what this email was all about. So anyone interested in learning more, you can create an account at https://www.lisaaromano.com. And just create an account. You'll have a free account. It gives you access to my website and also adds you to my newsletter. And once you're on my newsletter, I'm able to send you information about my group coaching online that I do on a bridge line, as well as my group coaching in the 12-week breakthrough coaching program, any SPY events, any seminars, any webinars, and any retreats that we have upcoming. So again, dear ones, thank you for watching. I bow to the love and the light in you. Namaste. Bye. Have a great day.